Every fighter experiences a decline, but when it happens at the highest level of the sport, the flaws that lead to it can have an even greater spotlight. That's what coach Sayif Saud sees happening to former UFC middleweight champion and future UFC Hall of Famer Israel Adesanya, who saw his losing skid hit a career-worst 3 fights in a knockout loss to Nassourdine Imavov at UFC Fight Night 250 this month. After losing consecutive championship bouts to Strickland and Dricus du Plessis, the once-longtime titleholder Adesanya, 24-5 MMA, 13-5 UFC, found himself in a different spot. His streak of 12 consecutive title fights was over and he was in a non-title bout for the first time since 2019 against a surging contender in Imavov. He said all the right things heading in, and started with a strong first round. But then it fell apart. Imavov landed a big punch on Adesanya in the second round that rocked the last stylebender. He pounded and got the knockout finish in what was a breakthrough moment for his career, but the post-fight narrative was firmly on Adesanya and what his future holds. Saud, who is the head coach at Fortis MMA and was an Analyst of the Year nominee at the 16th Annual World MMA Awards, saw this as a natural progression of Adesanya's career. At 35 and with more than 100 combat sports bouts on his record, Saud thinks Adesanya is experiencing the slightest fallout in what were once his strongest attributes. I look at that fight and just think about how incredible Izzy has been and what he's done, Saud told MMA Junkie. I see everybody and they're like sad. It's kind like mourning this great fighter. But this happens to every single fighter after a certain point, because they fight at the very elite level. The thing about these champions is once they get to that level, everybody you fight is on the way up and is the very best of the new breed or the new generation or whatever. Nassourdine is a good example of that. He's 5 or 6 or 7 years younger than Izzy, in his prime and hungry. It's constantly like being at the very tip of the sphere against the most amount of danger, and how long can you do that for? At 35 years old, if you're just a hair slower, just a hair, just like Roy Jones Jr. The guy was all reflexes. He would hit people and come back and they couldn't even touch him. He got just a hair slower and that was the difference. So I think that's what we're seeing with Izzy. I still think he looked really good in the fight. I think he can beat tons of people. I think he can beat Nassourdine in a fight. But with the style that he has and the way that he strikes, in that division with the young guys coming up, it's tough. Although Adesanya has yet to make a definitive statement about what his fighting future holds, his path to victories aren't going to get any easier. Unless he takes a dramatic step down in competition, Saud said everyone who enters the octagon with Adesanya will be studying him closely and coming for his head in this vulnerable position. Reigning champion du Plessis said he thinks Adesanya does not have another title run in him, and Saud tends to agree we are witnessing a turnover with the elite at 185 pounds. We see a big shift coming in the middleweight division, Saud said. That was an example.